welcome to this episode of In Search for Courage and Meaning. I'm Abby of Abby King Healing, where I help women in their midlife come out of hiding and step into deeper purpose and potential. And today I have with me Raquel Reis, who has so courageously said yes to my invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
And as I like to start, would you be willing to introduce yourself and what would you like us to know about you?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for saying the courageously. As so I'll start by introducing myself, and then maybe we can talk about that a little bit more. But my name is Raquel Reis. I am a relationship coach. I am an artist, a photographer. Relationship coaching is sort of my main focus at the moment. And what I do is I help couples and individuals who wants a life of connection and ease, no matter where they are on the journey, and really working with them in learning and building relationships that make their life and the world better.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So you haven't been always a coach, and you used to be only a photographer and a very established photographer. And so I'm wondering if you can share with us a little bit about your journey of transitioning from one to the other. And the reason I'm asking that is that there's so many women, especially the kind of women that I'm working with, who wish to transition into their next thing, this thing that they're, feel so aligned with. And yet there's so much fear that holds them back, holds us back in the familiar. And you were very established in your field. And so I feel like that's even more so, like, how do you let go of something you're really good at and successful at to move towards something that has a deeper meaning for you?
Yeah. So yeah. First of all, I just feel like I'm going to talk about myself. Obviously, I feel like there's so many ways to go about that. It was not as dramatic as like one day I quit my job and I was like, I'm a coach. And I still select photography jobs that are really meaningful. I'm doing my own artwork. It's really has been an evolution for me. And a lot of trial and error. I feel like one of the things that is required is to make mistakes.
Yes.
And sometimes expensive mistakes. I mean, actually not even mistakes, but just not hit it like right from the first try. I would not even call it mistakes. Like for me, I have tried a couple of things before I've landed on coaching, and it was scary for me to do it later in life. And as you said, it just didn't make sense to shake, just like to shake something. But yeah, for me, my journey was, I actually did go to school. I've studied alternative medicine. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and a lot of travel and a lot of training. I worked in that for a couple of years while still, then I actually went to coaching school and started doing business and executive coaching. And finally, I've just surrendered to the fact that I love relationship. First of all, I love making things work. That's why I went into each one of these fields. But relationship is at the heart of it. And that even when I was working with people in the corporate environment, even when I was working with people in business, like so much of the work was centered around communication. Just like, I mean, our life is communication. We live with other people. So, and really, I was just taking courses in relationship and communication and reading books. And that's what I was doing. And in my mind, it was not as viable or respectable as business coaching. But I just was, and it also really scared me because I did try a couple of things and I was like, I'm not a teenager, you know, enough with the trying. And then I was just like, if I don't go for it, I won't know. And funny enough, actually, central in my coaching, I mean, I think that it's central in any coaching, but in relationship, just the same, is the notion of commitment. And what happens in the space of commitment. So just making
commitment to the path, commitment to the process, you mean?
commitment to the relationship. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. It's actually, so one of the things that I work with couples and individuals with it, one of the first concepts that I present to them is 5 stages of a thriving relationship. And the first step, I think it actually really applies to business and vision and all, you know, and the women that you work with, because the first stage is romance. It's where we just, you know, see the best. And everybody are experiencing it differently. It's not like it's, but generally it's characterized by seeing each other best. It's seeing each other best, wanting to enhance each other's life, just like being, you know, naturally committed, just wanting to do kind things for each other. And there is an element of, you know, sort of like we're a little high on romance, but actually in many ways we also really like seeing each other essence and just like are really like going for something. Then the second stage is the power struggle, which if we need to bring it to to any endeavor that you would ever take, like you just start like hitting the reality of what it takes, you know. And so many people get stuck in that power struggle. They actually think this is the end, this is it, they don't see a way out. And the next stage is the commitment stage. So basically in the commitment stage, you actually like, you decide that this is what you want to do, and you're going to stay for the course. And then the commitment stage is the central to question is, what is the relationship needs for me to work? And how am I contributing to what's going on? So these are the questions. There's 2 other questions. Stages. I'm not going to go there yet. But what's possible in the space of commitment? Because you're going to hit snags. I mean, I will tell you, like in everything, you know, like it's all very dreamy when I dream about my career, you know, and then I, you know, and then you hit your own edges, you hit other people's edges, you hit your client edges, you just like all the unexpected is coming at you. So I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
it sounds like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it sounds like like what you said at the beginning, that hitting one's edge and the snags are extremely important. Like it's, you know, when you said even about pouring money into all these various studies,
Yeah.
it was not a waste. It never is a waste. And like having to fail is not a waste. It's the best teacher in the world, you know, failing, getting up, failing, getting up. But before we even go into more of your philosophy, which thanks so much for sharing some of it already, I just want to go back to your journey with it, because I wonder, how did you know that you're on the right path? You know, like, I think there's just so much confusion for people, and there's a calling that has a certain feel, a certain sound inside, and I'm just that we can follow to know that this is for us.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how it was for you. And you can even tell that story you just told me before we press record about what I said to you, which I didn't remember even.
Yeah. How did I know? So for me, I didn't know. You know, I knew and I didn't know, and I wasn't sure, and I was really afraid to like go and invest again in education again and in training again. And what if I change my mind? And finally I was like, I'm giving it a year. And I think that there's something about it, but I'm giving it a year where I'm giving it everything I
Yeah.
got. I'm not holding back. Like, this is my year. By the end of that year, I can assess. And you know, that when I say commitment, it does not have to be a lifetime commitment. Like, I'm bringing it back to the relationship, but it's totally like applicable, I think, to anything you do in life. Like, sometimes I would work with a couple who is like on the verge of divorce, really questioning. And all we do is like, are you willing to commit for 1 month? Whatever they're willing. 3 months I prefer, but I'll take it, you know, one session, just one session. So you kind of follow the clues, but there is that element of like, are you willing to try something different for 1 month? And that's that. Like, that was the commitment. You know, I was like, I have a year. Let's do it. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds to me like you weren't sure, but you said, I have to try it out in order to know. And
Yeah.
I love that because it makes me think about the importance of taking action. You know, we can dream the one day we'll
Yeah.
do something, but the gap between one day I'll do it and actually trying it out, it's such a completely different experience. And you can't know in advance and you can't know in theory.
Yeah.
You just have to have the courage to give it a try.
Yeah. 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 And you will have moments. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some people that are always sure. but it really is, there's so much gift in it. Really, there's so much gift. Like, it's that going deeper, having more intimacy with yourself and whatever you're up to, and just like staying with the uncomfortable. And then there's just like everything good is on the other side of the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the other thing I was wondering, you know, so you said just try it out. Just try.
Yeah.
Just be willing to commit to try something out, being it one session, being it a month trial, being it committing myself for a year that I'm really trying this out. The other element, the other aspect I'm wondering about is that inner feeling that you have towards this thing that you suspect that you're very passionate about. And how do you follow that feeling about it? That's why I mentioned that story.
How do I follow the feeling?
Yeah, do you remember what you just said to me about I don't want to repeat your story because you tell it better.
Our conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Abby just before we started speaking that one of the funniest conversation I've ever had with her. Abby and I know each other and really being a part of each other's journey. I actually remember your commitment moment very, very clearly and succinctly.
So do I.
But yeah, which involved, you know, the thing about it, when you have a commitment, I feel like it has a ripple effect, you know, it really does have, because I don't know, I don't want to give too much information about you, but I remember how it got your family closer, your husband, you know, like everything came together around your decision, which was just really beautiful to see. But
yeah,
yeah,
I want to actually, I want to come back to that. I think there's something really important about that, but first go ahead.
Yeah, but Abby and I had a very funny conversation. I was learning all about attachment style, and I was just beaming, and I was telling Abby, like, it's fascinating. And did you know that the withdrawer and the pursuer, and that we actually, like, I was just like going on, and Abby said to me, you know how I know you meant to do this? Because there's nothing fascinating about it for me.
Yeah, and that's what I
Yeah.
mean, that there's a feeling of passion and juiciness inside
Oh,
when
I am such a
really,
relationship nerd. Oh man. Yes.
and
Yes.
that
And
is,
anything that I discover, like, I mean, it really is like, it's a feeling of gratitude and reverence, like really, like anything that like helped me open my heart and just like see how kind and amazing we all are, and how just like small changes can just turn something that could have been World War whatever into deeper connection and knowing each other and working stronger as a team. Like, to me, like, what's better than that? What's better than
Yeah.
that for myself, for others? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
And
the
so I
feeling?
feel like that's the
Yeah.
breadcrumbs. If we're not sure if we're on the right path, look for those clues, that feeling that you of reverence, of heart opening, of being so passionate about something. It's almost like you can't shut up about it. It's almost like being in love, right? Um, and in a way that can guide us rather than kind of the self-doubts that are fueled by fears. And you know um there is we can listen to where the flow wants to go, where the juice, the sap wants to go. um and to go back to what you were saying about commitment, which if you want to say more about it, I agree. I feel like there's a pivotal moment when you say yes.
Yeah.
There's a pivotal moment where you say yes, almost against all odds,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it feels so right. And maybe it's surprising that it feels right, but it feels so right. And you know that it's almost like you just like press the button of like being so self-honoring, because, sort of going with what's so aligned, even if it's not what you expected.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I also do want to normalize it. Like, sometimes it's not as clear, and I want to just put that message to all the self-doubters out there, that like wanting something, like sometimes you don't know until you try,
Right.
and just like making that decision, making that decision to say yes to like this yearning, like follow that thread until you continue or not, it will become clear. Yeah. So sometimes it's like yes, and sometimes it's like it's just there enough and I'm gonna follow it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's, yeah.
So do you want to say anything else about relationships and what feels so important to you about the kind of work that you do for that?
Yeah, I would love to. I also want to say, um, because Abby and I spoke a little bit before we started, and I asked you what would serve you, what would serve your audience. And I can really see that this, our listeners are women who are going to go for it, to really embrace what is most important to them. And one of the questions that you asked me is like, how do you go against the voices of doubt, the voices that tell you that this doesn't make sense? And even like when you said to me, courageously agreeing, because I am a private person, it's not my preference to go and like, I mean, a part of me wants it, but a part of me is a little wary of that. And I can tell you that for me, pushing against something has never worked.
Ah,
It's always a reframe, but being of service, like my message is so important that I'm gonna speak in public, that I'm gonna go through my own journey, and then like take, meet other people on that journey, so for me, service has always been like the gateway to actually do, like, how can I be of service? How can I live fully? How can I embrace, the things that are important to me? And in that process, give that space to meet others that are, in different parts of that path. Yeah. So it felt important to say that pushing just never worked for me.
I,
I
I,
really
I
tried.
and I
Yeah.
really appreciate you saying that, because I
Yeah.
can't agree more. And I feel like if anything, there's a big tendency to push like that, no pain, no gain,
Yeah.
overdoing, and we live so close to New York City. I feel like the energy, even here in Nyack, is like, oh, I must do, must achieve, must complete, must, and in general, that kind of striving,
Yeah.
I'm more and more in my life finding that I don't think it really works for me. Um,
Mm.
and so I thank you for bringing that up, because when we remember the why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? The
Yeah.
when could step out of sort of like the more kind of petty me, what will they think of me? How will I come through, not come through, what's the word? But
How do I
um,
look?
how do I look? Do you like me? Please love me. And you can step into the why, and why is this important, and how can it be of service to other people? So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, what is it about relationship? Why the
Yeah,
work
if you
is
want
so.
to, if you want to share a little bit about your work and how and why and what,
Yeah.
etc.
I mean, I can share about my journey, and then I can share about the specifics that I'm doing. I think that I've discovered the work decades ago. I was studying with a woman who study men and women from a very biology and scientific point of view. And it was just eye-opening for me. It changed everything. It changed my relationship with my dad, with my brother, with men co-worker. I got into the best relationship that I have been in, a long-term relationship with a man that was just my best friend, really like changed my life in a profound way. And I've also started like sharing it with others and seeing changes in their life. So that was the introduction to just like how our outlook affect relationship, outlook and information, and just understanding each other and our differences. Like here, it was more about men and women. And then yeah, and I've continued to study, and actually one of my last trainings also had that component of like missing pieces when I spoke to you about attachment style, and really, first of all, understanding that any conflict is actually a break in connection, and how do we find that connection?
Mm.
And that in times of stress, maybe you'll be a little more interested in attachment style now if I like actually take my hope. But that actually, and that attachment style, which a lot of it has to do with our upbringing and just who we are, is how do we respond to stress? How do we respond to stress? How do we respond to connection? And in it, there is there's anxious attachment, which is also a pursuer. There is avoidant, and then there's secure attachment, where conflicts or seeming conflicts or differences are not a problem. You just come together and you figure it out as a team, and you get closer and stronger for it. But so many of us, like when there's conflict, when there's heightened emotions in a situation, one stress reaction is just like the pursuer is the one that just like want to resolve it now and have everything talked about it. And the other stress response is someone who's like, whoa, this is getting out of control. Let me just like go a little bit until things cool down. And, and you can just see how that is a disaster when one person is like, let's resolve it. And the other person is like, this is going to blow up. And actually a lot of what I am, so all of my work is based on positive psychology and strength based. So we're actually looking at what are the strengths of the pursuer and what is the strengths of the withdrawer. Withdrawer get a really bad rap, by the way. and it seems as if the pursuer is the one that wants the relationship, and not necessarily at all. So, it's just that we actually need we need the withdrawer because they keep the peace and the harmony, but we need the pursuer because nothing would ever get addressed if they were not there. So this is how we start working with each other. So just like this little understanding, like, what does it make possible for people? Like understanding that we're not we are so stuck in our own little world, in our own little way. And just like starting to understand each other opens so much. It becomes fun. Like the differences that upset us and annoy us become fun.
Yeah.
And I mean, every study, I think the longest study conducted by Harvard University shows that the biggest predictor for longevity, happiness, financial success is the quality of our most intimate relationships. That people who live in communities are healthier, more functional. Like we need each other. We are so like, we're in such a like individualistic culture now. And I think most people are seeing how it's not working, how much, even we need each other. We need each other in our families. We need each other like with coaches, like that notion that we're supposed to figure it out on our own and that we're supposed to know everything on our own. But for me, like what a better gift to give people than have their relationship be peaceful and connected and useful and, working well together, joyful, juicy, sexy. Yeah. So.
And I love the fact that you just said the word useful, which is not anything that I would think of putting there, but it just keeps bringing me back to something that we said before about the importance of struggle and conflict. I know for myself, I don't like conflict at all. It's taking me years to kind of be okay with it, but I'm probably the avoider type that is like, oh, too much conflict, and the times that I've like confronted people, especially those I love, husband, close friends, family members, the closeness that I felt with them afterwards, once I was able to open myself up and be vulnerable and say from my heart, this is how I feel. This is how this makes me feel. And there's like this real meeting. And from there, it's like we went on to the next level of our relationship. But it wouldn't have happened if we weren't in conflict, nor would it have happened if we didn't have sort of the courage or the means or the tools to communicate on it. So once again, the value of conflict and struggle.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, first of all, and if I can maybe like I love, first of all, I love the courage, especially as someone who doesn't like confrontations, like, yes. You just said something so important there as well, that how you went about it was also like how you got, to be close, because there's confrontation and there's confrontation. And so often, like when we go into conflict, it's actually like really well-meaning and very ineffective ways of getting our needs met, of trying to get closer, but like, getting the opposite of what you want. I always joke with clients, I'm like, like we complain, we nag, we're like, yeah, that will really make them generous and loving. We're going to enlighten them about everything that's wrong with them. They're just like, yeah. So how we go about communicating is everything, and the same thing, could have created distance or could have created connection. And I just love hearing how you're creating more connections.
Thank you. And what you're saying, I feel like it's so universal about everything in life, that we come with force. Either people, it creates cowering, or it creates, hitting us back. And it always reminds me of martial arts, or specifically Aikido, because that's what I know of, how you don't go against, you go with, you lead in a way, you lead with each other. You never like go against. And
Yeah.
because going against just creates pushback, and
Yeah.
how that, like, this universal law, and how it, it's expressed in relationships and conflicts. And
There's so much I want to say. How much time do we have?
no, we actually don't have any time. So I know we can always,
Do I have like 2
again.
minutes to just say one more thing? No.
Yeah, and also maybe use the opportunity if you want, because I really like asking in the end, like, if you can have people, if there was one message or one thing that you can really help people with, help people understand, what would it be?
I would say that most of us have not even tapped into the potential of our relationships. We
Mm.
don't even know what's possible, like how much love, how much joy. You're talking about conflict. Like me and my colleague always joke of like, what are you going to do with all this time that you're going to have now that you don't have conflicts? maybe your life's vision,
Yeah.
it's really, yeah, just like wherever you are, like wherever you feel stuck or doomed, or like it's a dead end and it cannot work, like it is not necessarily so. So many of us give up at that point, and they're just like, all the goodies are past that. So stick around, work it out, seek help if you need to. I just wish you all the love and ease and connection. And I know that it's possible.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Yeah. Oh my God, I love that message of, it's just beyond that point. The goodies, as
Yeah.
you said, they're just
All
beyond that
good.
point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Raquel, for joining me here today. And for anybody out there who wishes to learn more about Raquel, her website will be at the notes. And of course, my info is there too, for anybody who wants to know more about my work. And thank you.
It was such a pleasure speaking with you, Abby. Thank you. What a great way to start the day. And the same to like all your brave women, just like there's so much available for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.